Thank you very much for the introduction. And I'm actually going to, really quickly before I get actually started, I'm stealing a page from Aaron Patterson here. I'm going to do a selfie with all of you so you can look nice and happy here. I don't have the big selfie stick, but let's do it vertical. Cool. So that's going to be the worst selfie ever in the history of selfies. Now, it's the end of the day, and you're all very, very tired. There was a delicious lunch. I would be asleep, too, if I was you, so I won't feel incredibly bad if I see some heads nodding off in the background there. But for the beginning of the day, where we started, I'm hoping that everybody was here to listen to Matt's talk, because he touched on something really, really interesting. And that is that as programmers, we kind of have this unconscious drive to focus on computers and not people. And we have this drive, I think, for a very obvious reason, right? Computers are incredibly powerful machines. They're amazing machines, and we want to get the most out of them. And so we focus on algorithms and things like, getting good data structures because they're compact and it's faster. And it's really, really easy to ignore the human side of programming. And so this is a talk about software engineering, but we're not going to talk about solid, and we're not going to talk about object-oriented design principles. And instead, we're going to talk about what I like to think of as the human infrastructure of programming. Because, when you think about that, software gives you the power to change the world. And in order to really, really leverage that, you need to have power over yourself. Now, my academic background is mathematics. I have a degree in math. And there's an old joke with mathematicians that a mathematician is a machine that turns coffee into theorems. You put coffee into a mathematician, and you get a chalkboard full of stuff that nobody can understand. That's what a mathematician does. Well, a programmer is a machine that turns coffee into working software. Now, it sounds okay, maybe a little insulting, like to call programmers machines, right? That's not really what I'm trying to say. But you can really think of your body and your mind as being these incredible machines, these incredible tools that you can do amazing things with. Not just programming, but including programming. And when you think about tools for programmers, right? If you have an old laptop that doesn't have a lot of memory, it's got tons of malware on it, that's not something that's really a lot of fun to program on. It's very, very frustrating. And so if you think of that as being one of your tools, your body and your mind are exactly the same way. They require maintenance, and they also require perhaps some training to really learn how to get the most out of them. And in the same way that a good investment for a software company is buying a quality machine, making an investment in understanding how to really get the most out of your body and your mind is, I think, the best investment that you can make as a programmer. And so we're going to start with your hardware. So about, was it 2009 or so? 2009, I stepped in as CTO for a startup in Japan. And as part of the work that I did there, we re-implemented a large amount of code, specifically something involving one of the payment systems. And in order to actually bang out that payment code, we were under very, very tight deadlines. I think everybody in here knows what that's like. So the team pulled some all-nighters and some really late-night work, and I did the same. And there were some really critical parts of the code relating to how we talk with our payment processor that I worked on. And so I finished that stuff up at about 2 a.m. the day before we rolled out our big launch. I was very, very proud. We got everything done, made all the DNS transfers, everything was great. And so the next day rolled around and everything was fine until we started getting a large amount of order volume in. And it took something on the order of, I think, 2 team days to actually track down the bug that I wrote and fix it and actually get the company going. And until we did that, I think we lost something on the order of like 70% of our credit card orders. And marketing, by the way, at this time decided that they were going to do a big new push to coincide with the launch of our new system. We'll not be doing that again. Now, this is kind of important because it ties into something that I like to call anti-work. So you know how you have like matter and antimatter? Well, if you put those two together, there's a big explosion and it releases a lot of energy. Work and anti-work are the same thing. So when you are tired and stressed and not focused, you tend to, as a programmer, write code that does far more harm than good. And the reason I call it anti-work is because it explodes in your face and it takes time away from the team, from the future. And the reason for this is because your body doesn't have infinite capability. It doesn't have the ability to just work eternally. And so when we think about getting the most out of our bodies, what do we really want? It's not strength. We don't, as programmers, we don't need to lift heavy weights. We don't need to be able to box like Bruce Lee. What we really need is consistent energy. And this is really important because it's something that is so easy to ignore. And energy is actually the most important commodity that we have as programmers. This statement that's on the board, managing your energy and not your time, this is, I think, one of the most crucial things that I've ever learned, one of the best pieces of advice I was ever given. Because when you think about your day, everybody obsesses over getting more time, more hours to do more code, to do more things. But what you do to get those hours, you stay up late. You use caffeine, or actually something that's very popular, using nootropic drugs, things like, I think Adderall is a common one, or other drugs that give you more time that you're awake during the day. And all of those things come with a price. You are stealing from the future in order to get more time today. And the time that you're getting today is lower quality. And so the goal shouldn't be more hours. You're not going to get more hours. There's only a certain number that you're going to get during the day. It's to get better hours. Imagine what it would be like as a programmer. You didn't have times where you were thinking, I'm not really motivated and I don't really want to do it. If every hour was in that zone, you know the zone, right? You're sitting down, you're writing code, and everything is just flowing beautifully. If every hour that you could have while you were at work, where you were working, was in that zone, it would be amazing. The most important part to getting there is to make sure that you get plenty of sleep. I can't believe I actually have to put this on the slide, but a lot of programmers don't. You'll stay up all night, you'll work really, really hard, and you'll cut down on the sleep, and you pay for that the next day. And it's in order to get regular sleep, it's not just a matter of like, okay, I'm gonna get 8 hours, but maybe one day I'll go to bed at midnight, the other day I'll go to bed at 10, another day I'll go to bed at 2. Doing this every single day at the same time, going to sleep when you're tired, and waking up at the same time every single day is so incredibly important because it gives you constant energy during the day. And we'll talk a little bit about that in just a bit. It's also important to know that alcohol is actually kind of dangerous here. You really understand this when you get older. I'm 35, hangovers for me are epic. But when you drink alcohol, it lowers the quality of your sleep. So you'll get just as many hours of sleep. But like we said earlier, you're not getting the same quality of hours. And so be very judicious about alcohol before days where you're going to be doing a lot of intense programming. My tool for doing this, by the way, I have an iPhone. Yeah, I still have an iPhone. Mine has the old school headphone jack, by the way. I think I'm going to be keeping that. But I use the bedtime tool on an iPhone because it provides this really nice gradual transition into sleep, and it provides an alarm that's less jarring to help me wake up. And more importantly, I use it every single day. So not just during the week, I do it on the weekends. On every weekend, I wake up at the same time at 7 a.m., the same as I do during the week. It's one of the other good pieces of advice I got, which is don't treat your weekends like mini vacations. Actually keep the same schedule. This is super important for human beings because human beings are very, very rhythmic creatures. We actually have internal rhythms. One of them is tied to the light outside. So if you've ever used an application like Flux to turn your monitor orange in the evening, that's because your body is tuned to where the sun is during the day. It's the circadian rhythm. You have another rhythm, which is based on when you eat. And so if you've ever had to deal with jet lag, for example, then you can help reset your jet lag by having a meal at the right time when you land at your destination, because you're resetting your second clock, even though the first clock, the daylight clock, is totally out of whack. These rhythms govern energy. They govern really everything you do during the day. And so if you sleep and work and take breaks, and take your lunches, and do everything at that same rhythmic pace during the course of the day, you get this about a 2-week adjustment period, and then you get this beautiful sort of consistent energy every single day. Traveling upsets this a little bit, but you get better and better at restoring that rhythm the more regular of a rhythm that you have. My go-to tools for this, one of them is, like I said, the regular schedule. So even on the weekends, I still follow the same food schedule and the same sleep schedule. And the other thing is using my calendar. So every single event that happens during my week is scheduled in the calendar as a repeating event. So stand-ups all happen at the same time. Planning meetings all happen at the same time with my team. And that helps people have more consistent energy. And we've definitely noticed a productivity boost within my team. Something else that's really important for programmers It's really easy to eat a lot of junk food, and if you do, it feels nice, but you get something called an insulin spike, where all of that processed food really just pops the insulin in your blood, and you get this surge of energy, and then this crash immediately afterwards. You can get the same thing from caffeine, but nowhere near like what you would get with sugar. So in order to really take advantage of this, you don't need to live off of organic tofu. I mean, I obviously am not really a huge fan. But you really do need to care about the energy that you put into your body. And for me, the great focus on this is just cutting down processed food, cutting down the fast carbohydrates. Because when you eat things like pasta, for example, or rice, or whole bread, meats, vegetables, these things are, they tend to enter your bloodstream. The insulin spike is much more reduced. And so that helps with getting that consistent energy during the day when you're eating good quality food. Exercise is also another really important part of taking care of your body. Now, not everybody, of course, is going to need to be a power lifter, like this woman here. Everybody's going to have something that they want to do, and it's kind of important to find what works for you. A lot of people get obsessive about, what's the optimal exercise routine, or what's the best thing that I could be doing. And if it's something that you're not going to do, if you hate weightlifting, even weightlifting is great exercise, pick something you're going to like. Dance is great exercise. If you like dance, rock climbing is fantastic. Go hiking. But do something that gives you exercise, because that's also part of building that insulin resistance. So that whole thing about food and energy and about that insulin spike, you're much less sensitive to it if you engage in regular exercise. It also increases blood flow to your brain and improves the amount of endorphins that your body produces. It is hands down one of the best investments that you can make in terms of getting that consistent energy. If you have a hard time actually getting into it, like you start up a new routine and you really can't stick with it, I use something I like to call the mental momentum technique, where getting into something is much harder than continuing to do it. So on the days where I don't want to train or I don't want to go to the gym, the only rule is I have to go physically to the place where I train. That's it. If I go there and I stand and I'm changed in my stupid looking gym clothes and I decide now I'm done and I don't want to be here, well great, I can go home. I haven't actually gone home yet. So these are really the foundations of having the consistent energy that you need to have during the day. And I realize it feels a little nagging, this feels like fairly basic stuff, but without that consistent energy during the day, when you have those peaks and those spikes and those dips, it's really hard to get the most out of your mind. And this especially happens when you get older. Like as you get older, the difference between being low energy and being high energy becomes more and more massive. And so the more you make this a habit and a regular thing that you do, the better it is for you over the longer term. Now this is all about your hardware, your body. And great hardware is one thing, but in order to really get the most out of great hardware, you need great software. And the software is really what we're going to focus on for the rest of this conversation. So a good Rubyist knows all the quirks of Ruby. Like we know all the little tiny things that you can do that make people go why whenever you're playing around in Ruby. And it's in the same category. Our minds are our most valuable tools as programmers, and so we should know the quirks and the weird things about our minds that influence what we do during the course of the day. It's like any tool. Optimal use. It has optimal ways that you can use it, and there are limitations to what your mind can actually do. And when you know about those things, it really expands what you can actually do with your mind. And there's a lot you might not know. One of my favorites, I love this one, is that every single person in this room, 14 minutes every day, is completely blind. 100% completely blind, 40 minutes a day. You might think you're immune to this. It's not true. There's this thing called saccade blindness. So right now, if you look around the room, your brain kind of stitches things together, and it puts this continuous picture of everybody being here in the room. But what's really happening, your eye has a tiny area of focus, and it's darting around. You don't see any of this. And your brain is stitching it together in a perfect, clear picture of what the room looks like. It's actually the fastest motion in the human body. It is the fastest thing that you can do. It's also limited in certain ways. So, for example, if you stand and you put your hand out like this straight in front of you, like through the middle of your body, if you move it to your shoulder and you have your face looking straight forward, if you move it over to your shoulder length and you turn, you'll just sort of look at it. If you put it out at the 45-degree angle, turn, and your head will move to go with it. This is because the actual amount of visual range that you have for your saccades is about 20 degrees on either side. Now, this is something that ancient typographers figured out. It's why lines in books tend to be the length that they are. They're really almost about the length of your hand. And this actually does have something to do with programming, and we'll get to that in a minute. Another interesting limitation information about your brain in this case is that you really only have a very limited working memory. It's about 7 plus or minus 2 items you can actually hold in there. And when you overrun your working memory, you don't just lose things. It's not just like overrunning a stack where something drops. Your brain employs this kind of lossy compression to try and fit all the new information into that working memory space. And so it throws away things that it doesn't think are important. So it might change a number to make between 2 numbers the same, or to make a certain sequence of numbers repeat. And you'll remember something that is almost correct. And if you've ever been working in a particularly large function where a lot of things are going on, and you maybe move from one spot and then back to another spot, you wonder, wait, what's going on? Why is this sticking here? If you've ever done that, that's because your brain has compressed things and thrown away information. That's what's happened. And these become relevant to programming because of rules that you've probably heard before. Like you've probably seen these from Joe Spolsky or Uncle Bob or one of those things. And maybe even you didn't like them. You heard about an 80 character limit and you said, why do I need to do 80 characters? It's like a straitjacket. Why would I need to do that? Now you understand why. It's about those cognitive limits. What this is really about is about compressing code down into a place where it can fit within your working memory so that you don't overrun that working buffer and you can actually keep everything that's going on within a function in one place. It's really about respecting your brain. And the why really, really matters because you can still follow these rules and end up with code that looks like this. I have seen tons of this in production, and I mean, to be honest with Ruby, it's like the chaining and all of the flexibility that our language gives us. Yeah, writing one-liners like this is something that I've definitely been guilty of in the past. But this respects those rules. It's small. The line is, okay, it's slightly over 80 characters, but it's a one-line function. It's small code. Small code is great, right? There's only a few places for bugs to hide. Well, yeah, there is a few. There's 3 bugs in this. And I didn't realize that there were 3 bugs in this until well after I wrote it down and compressed it down. But it's really hard to see what those bugs are. We'll come back to this in a little bit. Something also that's really important when you're writing code is a deeper understanding of how memory works. Not just the limited working memory, but your long-term memory. Human beings are really, really fascinating in this respect, because this relates to our evolution. So something you may not know is that writing, the ability to write things down and hand something written to other people, probably only has existed for about 10,000 years or so. The oldest writing systems are actually very similar to Chinese. So hey, go Taiwan. And that's really kind of a recent development in the human evolutionary stage. Because what you would think of as being a human being, like looking back into our evolutionary past, human beings have been around for a couple million years, really, and we've only had writing for the past 10,000. And so how did we get information to each other before we had writing? And the answer is we told stories. We told stories around campfires, we told epics, we told poems, and these things told people moral systems, they told them how to hunt. All of that information was passed down through oral tradition, and so we've evolved to remember stories. And that's why things like, for example, that narrative code, when you hear that your code should tell a story, that's why those things are so important, because our brains are evolved to remember it. You probably remember the story about the stupid bug that I wrote that killed things that I talked about at the beginning of this conversation. Whereas if I had just talked about the details of the bug and not told the story about how it killed things on the first day with a big marketing push, it makes it more memorable. The beautiful thing about stories is because we've evolved to interpret them is they get a fast track into our memory. And so when you write that narrative code, when your code tells a story, it not only gets a fast track into long-term memory, but it also gives you a fast track on recall. So the next time you go look at that code in 6 months or in a year, you get this immediate pop of your emotional state, and everything else that you were doing comes back. It's not perfect fidelity, but it's definitely a lot better when the code is just as compressed as is humanly possible. Another really important bit about this is because it's easier to go into your memory and it's easier to come out of your memory, it saves energy. Remember, managing your energy, not your time. And so if we refactor that above snippet to focus on readable code, we get something that looks a lot more like this. And from this, those bugs actually vanished in the process of moving from the old code to the new code. And this tells the story. I now understand more what's going on here. Oh, I'm converting a short color or a long hex color. Probably one of those 3 or those 6 character values, which I can see with the hex digit. This is a lot easier to understand. And so this is, I think, one of the reasons why talking about the why really matters. Because if you just hear short code is good, then you can write stuff like what we saw earlier that's very hard to understand. But if you understand the why behind it, you understand how to apply it. Another really interesting aspect of human psychology is decision fatigue. So it turns out that decisions use energy. We have to use some of that energy to make a choice about something. And we only get a certain amount of those per day. One good example, which is this, is you have that drive-through menu which has like a million different things on it. And whereas if you go to In-N-Out, you have 4 options. Another good example is when you look at, they've done research in parole hearings. So people that are trying to get out of prison a little bit early because they've behaved very well and they want to be able to go back into society. If you get your parole hearing early in the day, then you are much more likely to actually get paroled than you would if you get it at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, the judges are running into decision fatigue and they fall back on their default behavior, which is keep the guy in jail. So if you're ever in jail and you ever get to a parole hearing, very topical advice for a programmer conference, make sure you get scheduled in the beginning of the day. It also applies for job interviews. So this is wonderful, but what does it actually mean? Well, discipline is all about making choices. You have to choose to do the right thing. So when you hit a point where you have to have exercise discipline to do the right thing as a programmer, you have to have discipline to follow a best practice, you have to make a choice. You're using one of your choices for that day. And this is one of the reasons why I say that discipline is overrated. Let Jesus take the wheel. And form effective habits. Because what habits are decisions that you've already made that you've codified through repetitive action. Once again, we are cyclic creatures. When we repeat things over and over and over, they stick with us. And so through discipline, it's not through discipline, but through habits, by training your brain to do the right thing automatically, you end up saving that decision and you get it back later on in terms of greater energy. And a lot of programming best practices, things that you've heard about or probably even do, rely on this. So one of my favorite examples, let's talk about the cognitive science behind it. So there's this thing in your brain called the reward cycle. It actually relates to 4 dopaminergic pathways, basically dopamine and serotonin cycles within your brain. And the way that it works is that when you start to work on achieving a goal, something that you want, your brain pumps in basically a mixture of chemicals that motivates you towards getting to that goal. And it increases in tempo and frequency until you attain the goal, and then it wears off really quickly. Now, this is literally what drives us to do everything. Not even just trying to achieve goals like writing a feature or getting hired at a new job, but brushing your teeth, eating, sleeping. Everything is governed by the reward cycle. And the reward cycle is very important because of how that reward fades. So, for example, when you get a new car, you have the anticipation and motivation, like, wow, this new car is going to be so great. And then a week later, it's just your car. It doesn't really matter because the reward fades quickly. And what that means that if you put the bulk of the work at the end, if you put the most important stuff at the end, you won't do it because you've already gotten the reward and you want to move on to the next thing. And what we call this, of course, in the software world is test-driven development. For test-driven development, testing sucks, right? Like you have to write your test, you have to make sure you have to get the test environment set up, you have to make sure the test runner works, crap, coverage is broken again. And once you get all that stuff done, okay, now I can finally start writing the feature. I can get my integration test going. Okay, the integration test things, I'm going to go fix that. Okay, I'm going to work on my feature. And you start building the feature, and you actually start getting that feature done. And finally it gets to the point where the feature is finished. You've achieved the reward. Because the goal was the feature. Your goal is not to write tests. We don't exist as programmers because we want to spend all of our day, get to the end of the day like, this is a good day, testing's done today. We don't do that. We get to the end of the day and we think, wow, I built this cool feature, I got this export thing working. That's why we're here, is to write working software that makes other people's lives better. And so when you put the tests at the end, with test never development, which is what I like to call it, you're not leveraging the reward cycle. You're done, you've got the reward, and now it's just busy work that you don't really want to be doing. And so you have to have the discipline, you have to sacrifice that extra energy in order to actually do the test or do the code review. Another little interesting aspect of how your brain works. So, birds. If you've ever walked around in the forest, you can be walking up, you'll hear all these birds chirping really, really loud kind of up in front of you because they're making alarm noises to signify that there's a predator, that's coming nearby. And when you get close to them, they finally, get really quiet. Now, this is a deep structure built within the brains of really most animals that have hearing. And it's related to something called Werve's area, which is right here, literally right behind your ear. There is practically a straight connection from your ear into this area, and it is evolutionary critical because it warns you there's a predator nearby. There's something that I'm listening to that's really important. which means that for human beings, the sound of other people talking is really distracting. Really. And it's not distracting because you're not disciplined. It's distracting because you are biologically built to be distracted by it. Because back when our ancestors were on the savannah and being hunted by lions, this was really critical information to know that there was a lion nearby. It doesn't really benefit as much in an open plan office. Now, you can wear headphones. Headphones can help because they help block out some of the sound, but they don't block out all of it. And that part of our brain and our ears are sensitive enough to know that other people are talking about things. And so it's still a little distracting. And so what if you could proactively engage that part of your brain? What if you could use that for benefit rather than something that's just like, oh, stop talking about the football game? Well, there's something for that too. It's called pair programming. So when you pair program, when you're sitting down and you're working as a pair with somebody you're talking to, you're not just sitting next to them like on the keyboard because you're sharing a machine. You have to talk. When you're talking to somebody, when you're engaged in conversation, this area gets used. It's engaged in that conversation with that person, and it's focused, which means that everything else that's happening around you in an open plan office is drowned out. And pair programming has a lot of other really great advantages. I'm going to slightly evangelize this here. One of them is that it uses that reward cycle really effectively. Because as you're pairing, as you're working together, what are you doing? You're doing code review. You don't need to do code review afterwards. You build a feature and you're done. The code review is something that you do as you're actually doing the pair programming. So yes, you can do code reviews and pull reviews later on. That can certainly work. It's not that it's a bad system, but it takes more energy and more discipline. And energy, as we remember, is a huge, huge thing. And really through all of this, and talking about the way that our brains work and what we're trying to craft for ourselves as programmers, what we really want is to build an environment where excellence is the path of least resistance, where you show up at your work, you show up to do your programming, and because of the habits that you've built in, because of the systems that you've built into the way that you live and the way that you work, what comes out is excellence by default. And you do this by taking advantage of those natural cycles, taking advantage of the reward of understanding decision fatigue, and using those things to leverage best practices and to build those habits into your life. And it's not just about being a successful programmer, it's also kind of about being a happy and a successful human being. Thank you. My little timer here tells me that we have 3 minutes for questions. Are there any? We have one. Here, so I'm just going to walk over here with my microphone and share it with you.
They have microphone on the desk. Oh, you can just come right here.
No, try the United Nations. This thing's awesome. I feel like actually, I'm going to go back up here. I feel like I'm negotiating oil people.
Yeah, so here's Taiwan speaking.
Yes, this is the United States.
Thanks for the fantastic talk. Yeah, and one of the questions is that because you mentioned it's about building a great habit, right? Habit for productivity. And I was wondering, if, for example, as a tech lead or as a CTO, how can you build the environment or push people or make people to build these habits?
Oh, you have asked a great question. That is a fantastic question. I almost feel like you deserve a round of applause for this question. It's that good. So, you can't force people into doing things they don't want to do. I think that's really important. For example, if your team does not want to do pair programming, you're not forcing it, and it's not going to happen. What you can do with most teams is, one, you can say, hey, are you willing to do an experiment with me? This is a very important thing. Are you willing to try this out with me? And something else that I found is a really effective habit is before proposing the experiment, going around and doing one-on-ones with at least a majority of the team and saying, hey, here's something I'd like to try within the team. Maybe it's pair programming. Maybe it's we're going to do hardcore TDD. Maybe we're all going to sit on like those yoga balls and we're going to see if that improves productivity. And you propose it to people, and you state what they have to say. You get their input on it. Because once they've given you their feedback, that means they've actually bought in a little bit to it, because they are now part of the process. You're not forcing something down on them. You are giving them a chance to be involved and become a part of it. So you're not dictating, it's really becoming more of a group effort. And so if you're trying to get buy-in to try something, do that. But also stay true to your word. If you do the yoga ball experiment and it turns out to just not work, don't force the yoga balls afterwards. It's like, hey, we tried the experiment and it didn't work. Let's move on. And so tracking the result and agreeing to a time box. Like, we're going to do the yoga balls for the next month, and we're going to see how well that works. Another really good way to get buy-in is to talk about with the team really what the benefits are to them. And you can do this as a one-on-one thing as well. I highly recommend that. If you can talk with members of your team about what their goals are and find the right habits to instill that will help them drive them to their goals, this is someplace else that you're going to get a lot of really good buy-in. We could go into huge detail on this. This is literally what I did as a consultant for something like 7 years. And so please grab me after the conference if you'd like to dive in more of that. Hopefully I've answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, excellent. I believe we have one more over there, and we can do. Is it okay if we do one more question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. So yes.
Okay, hi. Yeah, great talk. I have read and heard a lot of the same things you've talked about previously in trying to have a good developer mentality or environment. A question I have though is if you are if a developer or in your past, have you ever had an experience where you would offer some of these suggestions, for example, to maximize productivity or maybe not having an open architecture or stuff like that? Have you ever encountered an organization that was resistant to these changes, that did not want to make these changes? And if you did, how, maybe from your standpoint or from a developer standpoint, how can you employ better habits personally to improve your productivity in an environment that doesn't want to change?
So once again, excellent question. And to answer the first part, have I worked in this environment? I did consulting with the federal government. Change. Yeah. Change is not something that really happens that quickly, especially when you're talking about large organizations. And so when you're focusing about you as an individual, this is maybe diving a little bit into stoicism, but focusing on the things that you can control. So the things that you can control about you personally are going to be your sleep schedule, your eating schedule, your work schedule. I don't think your bosses, even in places that have very, very strict top-down hierarchies, even if you're in the military, your boss is not coming to you and saying, okay, well, today's lunch is going to be at 12:05, tomorrow should be at 12:33, and you're going to jail if you don't actually do that. So you have control of your own personal schedule to some degree, even if you have a 9 to 5 and you have to be to work at that same time. So you can use that to optimize your own personal energy by having that. You can, exercise again is a big deal. This is something that has helped me hugely in stabilizing my energy throughout the course of the day. You can also help other people in your team to do this, where if other people in your team are coming to you because you're demonstrating some serious like productivity or skills or whatnot, you can say, hey, why don't you try doing this? Try it for 2 weeks and then let's talk about how this will actually, let's talk about how this has actually impacted you and kind of iterate through there. And so focusing on controlling you, and then when the results are evident to other people in the team, sharing those results to other people in the team and teaching them to do the same so that it becomes a sort of almost like viral spread of the idea throughout the organization. This is actually one of the other things I do as a consultant. If you come in and you don't have management buy-in, like maybe the top tier management, you've been brought in by a CTO that wants you to help kind of get things moving forward, you can use this as a way to spread virally throughout the organization until you can get buy-in from the top end. Have I answered your question? Okay, excellent. So at I don't want to go over too much time. They've already 2 minutes over. Thank you very, very much. And come talk to me afterwards.